Hello and welcome to another episode of Cyrils Brettspiele. My name is Nils and today we are taking a closer look in a preview to Darwinning. Darwinning is a new trick-taking game, and actually, is it a trick-taking game? I'm not 100% sure if I can count that as a real trick-taking game. However, I will explain that in a minute. So, what is Darwinning? Darwinning, as I said, is a new Kickstarter coming out on 20th of January 2018. And what we have here is technically a trick-taking game with 4 different suits. You have blueberries, you have leaves, you have flowers here, and you have acorn. And these are numbered from 1 to 15. Each card is twice in a deck. So in total you have 4 different suits, 15 numbers times 2, 120 cards. The game is played from 3 to 6 players, as you can see here, but you will have probably a 2-player version shortly coming out during Kickstarter. So when you play that with 3 or 4 people, you are playing only with 3 suits. You take out the acorn cards. If you're playing with 5 or 6, you're taking all the 4 different suits. And each player gets 10 cards on his hand. That's all. So for an example, in a 4-player game, you have 90 cards out there, 3 different suits, 30 cards per suit, so it's 90 cards, and each player gets only 10 cards. So there will be only 40 cards out of the 90 divided by the 4 players. So not each single card is in the game. That's really important to know. And then you are playing to win a trick. Starting with the starting player, the first player leads. And now the first difference between a normal trick-taking game and Darwinning is you have to beat the previous cards or discard just 1 card. What does that mean exactly? It's beating. So, and that is easy. So first of all, last player always beats first player. So second card is always higher than the first card. For an example, if someone plays a 15, the second 15 is higher. It doesn't have to match the suit, so suits are not really important in terms of you don't have to follow suits. That's really important to know. But what you have to do is, first of all, single card. A single card is the lowest value you can play. Then pair of the same value. Then 3 of the same suit. In this case, 3 acorns. Then 3, so it's a straight. Then 3 cards of the same value, 3 of a kind, right? And then 3 consecutive cards, which would be a straight flush, but only 3 instead of 5 like poker. But it's a little bit poker style. And 4 of a kind is the highest possible in this game. So again, you have to beat the first card or the first card. So let's say the first player is coming out with 3 of 1 suit, 10, 12 and a 4 out of the leaf. So then you have to beat him with, for an example, 3 of a kind. Or if you cannot or you don't want to beat him, you discard simply 1 card. When you win a suit, you get 1 card out of the trick, and now we are coming to the theme of the game. Darwinning is a game about Darwin. So we are trying to make evolution in here. You have 1 out of 10 different species here, like fish, dinosaur, birds, ants, elephants, and so on. And you trying to manipulate your race as best as possible. What can you see on this sheets here? Here, again, this is a prototype, so this is not finished quality. This might be not finished artwork. However, I really love the artwork, have to say. So, but that might be not the final artwork, just to let you know. So here you see the number 7 in the food chain. What you can see here is a tracker from 1 to 20. First of all, to track your points, but other than that, also to track the food track. So, and always animals or creatures higher on the food track eating lower ones, which is, I mean, that's easy, right? A dinosaur, for an example, has a starting of 10. You also see the number of population here. So this starts the mouse with 4. You also see terrains where they are occupying and the number of food providing when you match the terrain. I explain that in a minute. And some abilities. Each creature has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots for abilities, but some have 1 or 2 already printed on it. The goal of the game is easy. The goal of the game is to let your creatures survive, and not even survive, create the best possible race you can. How can you do that? It's simply, you play the game in 4 eras, and each time you win a trick, you can take 1 card out of the trick and make your race a little bit better. Let's take a closer look to these cards. First of all, here in the top area, you can add a +1 to your foot chain. Weight, there's a little bit more with the plus, but I don't want you to go into the details. Let's say this is on 4, this is on 7, this is on 10. Again, these pieces are my pieces. They are not included in the game so far. There will be some pieces, but I have only a prototype. So if you have a +1, or let's make this example, and this creature is getting a +1, you go up to here from 6 to 8. Why? You stop with 1 gap in between. If you're already here, +1 is here, and if you're already there, +1 is here, and if you're already here, +1 is simply +1. If you would get 2 movement with this one here, 1, 2. If you're here, 1, 2. And the third one could be this one. So you can get pluses or movement on the foot chain track. You can also add some terrains. These terrains let you survive better between the eras. You simply add that to your tableau, slide it in here, and now you have another terrain where you can live in. If you add this one, slide it under here, so everybody knows you added your population, not your population, your food track. You also can add population. This is on this side here. Simply take this one, the 2x here, and put them underneath, and now you get 2 more population. I counted always population with some coins or tokens. There should be some population tokens in it. However, again, this is a prototype, so there are no population tokens right now for me here on the table, but I could easily use these coins here. And last but not least, and this is really, really cool and important, and that drives this trick-taking game into, they call it a novel trick-taking game, which I don't know exactly if it's a novel, but it's definitely a trick-taking game with a theme on it, and that is really, really cool. I like that part. Probably the best part of this game is that you have a real good theme. So what you can do is you can add traits to your tableau. So this one already has here the dinosaur teeth. This ability is teeth. It's called teeth, and you can do something with that. You can eat, for an example, hard shells and things like that, and you can eat up the food chain instead of just down. Things like that. I don't want you to go into the details with all the abilities. But when you win a trick, you can use it as a +1 on the food chain, as plus population. Sometimes if there is terrain here, you can use that as terrain, like here, or you can use the ability, which is this picture and the icons here. These are pheromones, and then you add it here, and from now on you have this trait, this ability for your race. And whenever it comes at the end of an era to the point where you have to feed your race, where you have to make enough food to survive, you can use your abilities. I come to that in a minute. Let's go back to the original trick-taking game again. So, as I said, you can either play 1 card, 2 cards, 3 cards, or even 4 cards out of your 10 of your hand. When is an era ending? That's not easy, that's really tricky, that's a little bit of a gamble. So the last trick of the game is a trick where the first player runs out of cards. However, if you win that trick, you are not allowed to take the card. Only the losers of the last trick, or the losers together, can use the abilities. So you want to win all the tricks except for the last trick of an era. And that is really, really interesting. Why? Simply because you try to rally up the first ones, sometimes not, because you know everybody is chipping in the highest cards, and then you could easily have 5 back and the other just 2 or 3, and you know when you are playing a pair, they will not playing a pair because they don't want it to win, or not even a triple to not beat you, and then losing the last trick. They wanted to throw away a card probably, and then you can really get some tricks because you saved some cards. But on the other hand, that's also risky. So it's always a gamble. You never know exactly when the end of an era will come. You can always guess, but you never will know exactly if someone has to play or will play his last card. Because the last card, the last trick is not really efficient to get. Between these eras, and you play the game exactly 4 eras, you have a couple of these terrains here. In the game there are 10 different terrains, and if you and your species matching the terrain, like here, you are getting some food. If you add that, because you added these terrains here to the side, as I showed you with this one here, you add even more food, and you have to feed your population. In this case here, the mouse has 4 population. If you get some more population over the course of the game, let's say you have 6, then you need at least 6 food. Food you can create from either matching the terrains here. Keep an eye on that. Some are getting 2 food, but others are only getting 1 food out of matching a terrain. Some are even getting 3 out of this here. Or from these matches, or, from these matches here, or from your abilities. Some of these abilities, like teeth, giving you automatic food on top. But also from eating species below you. And now all these traits come into play. There are poison in it. There are hard shells in it. Hard shells protecting you from being eaten. But then you can have teeth or tools to crack the hard shell. For poisoning, you can have anti-poisoning, and all these cool traits. You have 15 different traits. You have metamorphosis, where you have to get a new trait at the end of each round. You have mutation, this stealing one trait from another one, and all of that. It's cool. You have camouflage, where you can hide yourself from your neighbors, and all these cool tricks. And of course, there are always counter traits. So if there's camouflage, there's technically an anti-camouflage, which is another trait. It's called big brains, and then you can get these and eat them. So the clue is to get the right traits to feed your creatures, your species, and survive each era. It's not brutal if you are losing. Let's say my population is 6 right now with the mouses here. So then if I cannot feed my mouse, I will lose 1 population. If I'm overfeeding my mouses, so if I have, for an example, 8 food tokens out of that, I will get a +1. And the other one where I can lose a population is if I'm being eaten twice. So if I'm in this place and 2 are eating me, I will lose another. But there's no way to lose more than 2 populations per round. If you can get another 2 during the next round, you are more than fine. If you're getting over 2 or 3 tricks, you can get up to 6 population, which would be almost insane, but you can, then you're getting even more population just by winning tricks than losing between the rounds. And at the end of era 4, again, during the eras in the between first and second and third, you have 5 of these terrains to match, then 4, and in the last era you have only 3 terrains to match and feed your population. And you can easily imagine that your population is growing, but the feeding grounds are getting less and less, so that's a little bit tricky. So probably you will raise your population first in the game, and then later on some of them will die. That's not the end of the world, that's how the game works. And then at the end of the game you will simply count points, and you get points almost for everything. You get points for the population, you get for this population, you get it for the food chain track, you get it for trades, you get it for terrains, you get points for everything, and whoever has the best species at the end of the round, at the end of the game, will win Darwinning. So now we talked even too much about rules and all that stuff. Let's talk about more and focusing more on the game itself and the fun of the game itself. So if you are looking for a trick-taking game, this is really an interesting trick-taking game because it's not as easy as the other ones, so where you have a suit, the others have to follow the suit, and if you don't have the right cards, no, here you have to really try to manipulate your hand in the way you want, because you want to win some tricks, some really important tricks to get the real traits you need. Also later in the game it's really important to get last tricks, but not the last trick itself. So if you're getting the second last one, you can really react on the other traits. So if someone took poison, you take anti-poison. If someone took hard shell, you took teeth, and so on and so on. Or if someone jumped over here, you are jumping back over, something like that. It's really important when you're taking a trick. And that makes this game so unique. So there are a couple of unique things in this game that I really enjoyed. One of them is, first of all, I have never really played a trick-taking game with such a deep theme. So this is not just a trick-taking game, this is an evolution game, this is Darwin. You are playing the evolution of your species and you use traits, you use all the cool stuff of a Euro game, but it's basically a trick-taking game. What you're doing is a trick-taking game. That's one part I really like. So it's really deep in theme here on that game. The artwork, by the way, really fits perfectly for that. It's this cartoony style, but it's not too funny. It's just plain simple. It supports really good the storytelling element of Darwinning. So that's one of the things I really like. Also, what I really like is that you have a built-in catch-up mechanism. Let's say you are here in the food chain and then you are getting a +1. You're getting all the way here, and that's all points at the end of the game. So even if you are lower on that track, you can get that. Also, let's take a closer look to teeth again. You can bite up the food chain. So with this one +2, and if you have pheromones here, plus another one up the food chain, so you can eat up 1, 2, 3. So even you can, if you're here, you can eat the big fat cat here if you have the right traits, and that creates a high interaction between the players. Also, mutation with stealing the traits from each other. It's not only that you have to take a look where you in the position of the food chain, no, you also have to take a look what the others have in traits and what you can get out of your hand. And really important again, it's not to get the last trick. So there's so much to think about that it's really more than just a trick-taking game, just a simple trick-taking game like Tihu. No, this is really a trick-taking game with a story. Wow! So if you are looking for a unique trick-taking game with a theme as a story that is really brutal and cutthroating, then Darwinning is something you should definitely consider, and right now buy it on Kickstarter. So this game has really a lot of potential in it. But on the other hand, it's a trick-taking game. So first of all, you have to like trick-taking games at all. If you don't like trick-taking games, this might not be yours. This is not a Euro game, this is not a worker placement game or something like this. This is a trick-taking game. First of all, you have to like trick-taking games. Then this would be probably the evolution of trick-taking games, because it's another step in that category. The second of all is this is really a highly interactive cutthroating trick-taking game. So trick-taking games are usually by nature a little bit of cutthroating, and you have really to outmaneuver your opponents. But this one has another layer on top of it. Not only outmaneuvering with the cards and the tricks itself, no, also outmaneuvering with your species, the right traits, to get the right traits, combine your 10 cards that you can get the right traits and all of that. So there is so much on it. Another thing that I really enjoyed and liked is, so you start out the game with 90 cards in a 3 or 4 player game, with 120 cards in 5 or 6 player game, but every time you take a card and take that into your evolution on these creatures here, the number of cards in the deck will be lowered by that card. So if everybody taking out a 10 for an example, it's really tough to get a straight with a 10 in it, because then probably there are 6 10s lying out, and in the whole stack there are only 8 10s, so there are only 2 left. All of this is really interesting, and for me bumps the normal trick-taking game up to another level. So again, this is a prototype, so final artwork might be a little bit changing, and definitely the component, these are not the components in the game, but there will be one of these helper sheets here where you can see what's survival means. So what does it mean to do between an era? So here, for an example, food can be gained by, that is explained here. Maybe it will be getting a little bit bigger and with icons. I would suggest that. I would also suggest to have some helper card. That might be also stretch goals, because it's not poker, but it's poker stylish here with this one here. This would be cool on a helper card, on a little handy dandy cheat sheet card. So that would be cool. And things like that. Maybe also the different trade. They are right now only in the rulebook. Even if they have some artwork and icons that support that, it's not 100% clear always. So I would suggest to put that as a stretch goal as well. But I can easily see this as a favorite trick-taking game for trick-taking game lovers, and people who are looking for a little bit more than just a normal trick-taking game. This is Darwinning, coming to Kickstarter on January 20th. And this was Nils, Cyrils Brettspiele, and we had this preview just for you guys. So please consider to buy this awesome artwork, novel telling, storytelling, trick-taking game if you're into trick-taking games. See you next time. My name is Nils.